Good evening and welcome to the September 18th, 2023 meeting of the Coeur d'Alene Parks and Recreation Commission. Melissa, would you get us started with roll call, please?
Commissioner Cranston.
Here.
Commissioner McDowell.
Here.
Commissioner Lean.
Here.
Commissioner Tate.
Here.
Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Bakes. Commissioner Wood.
Thank you, Melissa. Commissioner Lean, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight?
Pleasure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do any of the commission members tonight have a conflict of interest with any of the agenda items? Okay. We have a fairly short agenda tonight. We'll begin with our first action item, which is approval of the July 17th, 2023 meeting minutes.
I move for their approval as presented.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner McDowell and seconded by Commissioner Tate to approve the July 17th, 2023 meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That brings us to staff report. Bill, you want to lead us off?
Well, I think I'll let Nick start first.
Okay.
Hello, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. Just got a quick couple updates for you on some good work that we've been doing at the Trails and Trees Division here at the Parks Department, what we like to call it. Monty McCulley and I have applied for several grants, and some of that work is coming up. Seen a few reports on that. Just simply Veteran Centennial grant work that will begin this week. You may see them already staging some equipment out there, and it's supposed to start tomorrow or the next day. This is going to start with some tree removal, and then it's really going to be brush removal and ladder fuel removal, which, as some of you may know, it's that dead tissue on the understory of the forest about 12 feet high. There is no plan to burn along with this project. It's only about an 8-acre parcel. They should only be out there for about 2 weeks is a rough estimate. Going to be a lot of mastication. Unless something changes, shouldn't have to see any burning, so it should be pretty limited impact on the neighborhood. We're going to go ahead and follow up the trails crew and our staff with some trail improvement throughout there. That's going to be our portion of the grant match. We have to do a minimum of $2,500 in matching funds, and that's going to come from the work and the volunteer work we do out there to improve that trail. So should be pretty cool project, and should have a pretty nice natural area with some trails in it when we're done. That's much safer for the neighborhood. The other that we have been approved for and received the MOU on, which is the Memo of Understanding, is the Canfield Natural Area Grant. This is a fuel mitigation grant. The best thing about this grant is that there are no match funds that we have to make. It's just a directly funded grant. So we have received the MOU. Steve Bladell from Inland Forest Management once again has received the bid to be the project manager on this one. Best thing about that is he's managed our last 2 grant projects, including Fernand Hill and this upcoming Veteran Centennial grant work. So he has a really good idea on what our vision and what our goals are with this fuel mitigation work. So we fully plan on getting started on the planning process of that project, and we're hoping work will start and finish in spring of 2024. And that's about $250,000 of total grant dollars in that one. We'll have some more updates, and of course we'll have a public meeting before the work take place. Lastly, there's been a lot of rumors and we've just been waiting to hear, and I got news today. We did receive the Tubbs Hill fuel mitigation grant. Pretty happy about that one. We were recommended for funding to the Forest Service from the state, and we should be receiving that MOU any day. Once we get that MOU in hand, then we will start the process of planning the project. Of course, this is going to be probably the biggest undertaking on our end of this one will be the public outreach. Really going to have to do our jobs well, make sure they know what's going on and can see our vision. Of course, we're going to lean on the Parks and Rec Commission, the Tubbs Hill Foundation and our fire department to make sure that we're meeting all the goals and taking care of the Gemma Coeur Lane the way the public wants us to. Just one note there, that is more similar to the Fernand Hill grant work that we received a couple years ago, where we're going to have a match portion. Luckily, the Tubbs Hill Foundation has committed, I think it's $30,000 in funding to help us with that match. So should be pretty easy to meet, and it really helped us get top priority. The easier the match is, the easier it is to get those grants. So that really, really helped. So big thank you to them, and a big thank you to Monty McCulley for his hard work on that grant application. It was a great team effort. So that's the
Note
updates
on
on
that, I
that.
don't know if the amount you suggested, $30K, was what the foundation committed to, so I don't want them to get in a panic if that number's wrong. I think it's below that number, but they're partnering with us. We have some money set aside, and so between both of us, we've been able to get a match that put us in good competition to receive it.
Yeah, if any of the Tubbs Hill Foundation people heard me say a wrong number, please forgive me off the cuff. We appreciate any money that you gave us. So, but that's the update on the grants. Lots of good work being done. I believe with Monty's help, we have over $1.5 million worth of grant work that we've been able to start and hopefully finish by wrap up 2025. So pretty good, doing pretty good on that route. I've got a couple simple presentations that I wanted to show the public and the Parks and Rec Commission. We've had some bad news here with some tree removal requests come up, and it is something that really need to make the public aware of. Let me see this slideshow. Bottom right. Right. And now, right there. Okay, here we go. So we've had a couple removal requests, and just concerned citizen report some walnut trees especially the downtown core that have been in pretty bad shape. And unfortunately, what we found is that this is thousand canker disease, which is spread by walnut twig beetle. Now, both of those have really fancy scientific Latin names that I chose not to put on here because I can't pronounce it any better than you can. So we'll ignore those.
Well, it sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Well, I'll show you a picture of them here in a minute. They're pretty ugly. And what they do is pretty ugly. So this is a small bark beetle, and it targets specifically black walnut and butternut. We don't have a lot of butternut in our area, but we do have a significant amount of large walnut trees. And once you see this damage, you're going to notice they're all over town. So the beetle spreads a fungus, and that fungus causes this thousand canker disease. Unfortunately, that disease, once it's in the tree, it's a tree killer. It's not one that there's currently a treatment for. So usually it kills the tree within 3 to 10 years. It can take some time. It's not quite like what we see with our western pine beetle, where you have instant death. It's more similar to maybe Dutch elm disease in the way that it affects the tree. So we have several diseased trees that have been reported to us, like I said, mostly in the downtown area. And most of this damage does become apparent in July to August. So it's not really surprising that in the last couple months, we've suddenly seen all this damage come about. The damage in the canopies, which I'll show you with my next slide, it's visible. Once you see it, you'll see it everywhere. It's mainly top-down dieback, which is just what it sounds like. You see the crown starts to die from the top down, and you'll see a bright yellowing like it's fall in the middle of July. Once infested, there's no known treatment, and I am working with some local entomologists. We're pretty fortunate to have some very smart people on our urban forestry committee, some of the top entomologists in the state, and they have a great network, and they have been trapping for this bug, and they have a couple pheromone pack pre-treatments that are shown to be effective. So as we start dealing with this, there may be an opportunity to treat for that in the coming months, or at least recommend that treatment to the public. I'm working on a press release to get out this week, trying to make sure the public knows what to do with public walnut trees and their private walnut trees. So here you can see the visible signs. On the left, this is the cankers, the thousand cankers that you'll see on the wood. A lot of times you're going to see this before you see that dieback. And on the right, this is a tree on 9th Street. So you can see that significant dieback. And what will happen is this won't just, it won't just stop. You can prune the dead out, but then the next year is going to continue to progress, and then eventually the tree will die. And here is the nasty little bug. They're very small, so unfortunately, usually you have to destroy the wood. We're trying to figure out right now with the local entomologists if the chipping is enough or if they actually have to burn the debris. For sure, you have to remove and burn the bark. So what can the homeowners do? What can we do? Number one is promote the health of your walnut trees. Lean on your whatever arborist you trust. Reach out to the city. Get some advice on keeping your walnut trees healthier. The healthier a tree, the more resilient it's going to be to any pest. Report trees that you see to the Urban Forestry Division so we can act to get those trees out. Unfortunately, this is going to result in people having to remove trees. We have to stop the spread as best we can. And the best way to do that is to get the infested trees out. And like I said, this is a tree killer. So removing, infesting the trees, destroying the wood is critical. And biggest thing is, my guess on how this came up from the southwest to here is do not transport walnut wood, particularly across the state lines. I don't know. I would think that people probably transport walnut wood for milling rather than firewood because it doesn't make a lot of sense to burn it. So that's kind of the bad news. You'll see more coming out. This was kind of a report that came in last week. Wanted to act on it right away. Unfortunately, I have my ears and eyes out watching for different bugs throughout the area. This was not one that was really on my radar as one to be concerned about. So it definitely is now. And the last thing I've got tonight, unless there's any questions about that.
Anything for Nick on that subject? Okay.
So this is just a real quick one. And so as you're driving down Government Way in a very visible area, you may see some topped trees. I have 7 severely topped low public trees. And the only reason I wanted to share this with the commission and with the public is this is a very visible area. Our concern is that people might see these and decide, hey, that tree looks, I like the way that tree looks. I can see my sign. If you do this to trees, here's what's going to happen. They're going to, if anybody's familiar with water sprouts, otherwise called, it's really known as epicormic growth, they're going to put water sprouts out like crazy. They're going to leaf out, and they're going to produce really weak wood. And it's never going to have a great structure, and what you're going to have is a tree that has half of it's sound and half of it's super weak. So next time we get a storm or a wind, it's just going to break apart, and then the whole cycle will start again. It's not allowed by the International Society of Arboriculture, and it's definitely not allowed by the city of Coeur d'Alene on public trees. This will result in tree removal and replacement at the cost of the property owner. Property owners can also face fines up to the entire appraised value of a tree, which depending on the tree can be upwards of $20,000, $30,000. So kind of put this out as just a public reminder. Do not top trees. It's not good for the trees. It's not good for the community, and it's not good for you as a property owner. So just want everyone to know we know those trees are there. We're handling it, and please do not copy that work throughout town. And that's all I've got there.
I have a question.
Yep. Jim?
Nick, I'm not sure what you mean by topping the trees.
Yeah, so I can explain. It's a little difficult to explain, but I'll do my best as simply as I can. So it used to be a common practice. A lot of people look at trees and they say, I want that tree shorter. I want it to get a haircut. This is also commonly referred to as hat racking trees. And basically when you prune a tree, I call it a crown reduction, which means you're going to lessen the crown of the tree. And there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. This is the wrong way. It's called topping. And what it is you make a internodal cut, which is basically a fancy way of stating cut between twigs, right, on a main branch. And you make that between those twigs and at over 1 inch round. And when you do that, it gives the tree, that branch, no leader to start growing. So the tree goes into a stress response and says, I'm going to produce a whole bunch of suckers to try to make up for this canopy loss. And that sapwood, we call that's really weak. And that's what we call topping. So if you want to know what topping is, that's about as good a demonstration of it as you can find.
And Nick, also explain to them that it's also the topping that you described, it's species related too. This is a pear tree and doesn't respond well to this sort of topping. There are other trees that we would prefer not to have it done, but if it's necessary, there are oaks, more hardwoods that you can do that with, and then go back in and do some structural pruning that would have to be performed over many years to get that structure back. It's kind of timely and costly. It takes a lot of time to get it back from improper pruning. This particular species, you can't do that with, so that's why these are going to be removed.
Yeah, sometimes you've got, like Bill said, certain species, if it happens, we can find an arborist that can do what they call restoration pruning, try to restore the canopy of that tree. This particular tree is not a good candidate for that just because of its species profile. So,
Anything else for Nick? Thank you for the
Thank
report,
you.
Nick. Appreciate it.
thank you for the time.
Bill, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I got a few items to get you guys caught up on. The Riverstone shade sail structure, we installed that this summer, and Allie used it a couple of times for concerts. Well received, looked good. I don't know if you had a chance to go see them. We had a window to get those down. It seemed kind of silly. We put it up, and less than a month later, we took them down. But it was a good exercise. They took them down on September 5th, and so they're in storage, and we'll put them up in the spring again. Our team worked hard at trying to figure out the best way to do this. We've got some talented folks, and I think they've come up with a trial run this summer that they're going to do better at getting it up. They got it up in a day, but it was lots of him and Han pointing and saying, what can we do and how can we get this up there, because they're kind of heavy, they're pretty big, and so they got it done. City Park and McEwen basketball courts. You may have noticed when you came in that they're brand new here at McEwen, new resurfacing. City Park, we installed those in '98, and they haven't been worked on since, or '99 maybe, yeah. And they had a little bit more work needed to be done to those. They had some cracks, so they had some crack filling to do, but those look really good as well. We budgeted this coming fiscal to resurface the courts, the 3 tennis courts at Ramsey Park. So that'll take place usually this time of year, but next budget cycle. So those will get done. Between the basketball court and the playground, we have a gazebo that we're installing this week, and it'll be delivered on Friday. They're going to be working on getting the ground prepped and get footings poured for the installation, and it should be done by the end of next week. So it's the green roof, just low profile. If you look at our playground, everybody's hanging out in the shade on the north side where the trees are, so nobody really wants to be in the sun. So we put this on this side, and Nick and I walked that last week, and we got a couple more trees in on that north side that we've got room to put 2 more nice shade structure or shade trees to go along with this shade structure. So that'll be done by the end of next week. The museum landscaping is coming along nicely. Just a little backup. You may have remembered that we went out to bid. We pulled out about 9 elements within that budget to try and make budget when it went out to bid. And one of those was a paver section on the north side of the house itself. And it was about $13,000, and we were just going to have to pour concrete. Well, Greg Peck, great guy to work with, he's donating those pavers to the project. And so Clearwater Summit will be doing installation, but when Craig got the number from Clearwater, I reminded him that we were on a very tight budget. We couldn't accept any of the ad alternates at all. And he said, well, you know what? I think it's important to the project. I'd like to donate those to the project. So kudos to Greg for stepping up and helping out there. This was a fun one. We had a bear sighting at Cherry Hill on the 9th of this month. We had a little picture. Mel put out a heads up, and we put up signs to let people know that there's a bear out there to stay far away from them. The Jewett House garage is underway. The foundations have been formed, and I don't know if they poured them yet, but it's underway, and we should have that completed before the snow flies. We had a couple of days of shutdowns at Bluegrass Park this last weekend at the playground due to wasps. We had some calls about some people getting stung, and it was a pretty good-sized nest, so we chose to close it down on Friday and spray it, and on Saturday the bees were still there, so we kept it closed and asked to have it resprayed. So hopefully by early this week we can get that one opened back up. Let's see. Blowout starts Monday. Hard to believe, but we're going to start with the outlying areas and work our way into town, and it'll take us about 45 days to get through our system. So we're starting on Monday, and we'll get them knocked out. It's going to be a little different for us this year because we lost our irrigation technician, and we chose not to refill that position, and that was refilled in a different way, and which was our mechanic. So now staff is going to have to get back to handling their own area for the irrigation side of things, which is, it's a good thing to do, I think, in that the burden of that responsibility is passed along to 5 or 6 different people instead of one person. And they're a little behind the curve, but they'll get there, and it's not that difficult to learn. So Jeff Erickson is running them through it, and so it may take a little more than 45 days because we've got some new people on board. And one of our people that was really adept at it was Mr. Andrews, and Mr. Andrews retired this last month. So that knowledge and that is gone for now, so we'll get somebody trained up, and we'll be okay. And then this weekend, Dwight Bershaw's friends and families had another planting out here. Some of the material that they planted last year for his area, where the seating area there along the south side of McEwen Park. When we put it in, we got that really cold snap in October, and some of those plants didn't survive. So they came back this last weekend with Jared Odell was helping with them, and they planted some more perennials and stuff in there. So hopefully we get a nice mild fall and get those plants established without them getting knocked down with a heavy freeze. And with that, I don't have anything else for you.
Anything for Bill? Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. Do any of the commissioners have comments or announcements? Okay. Our next item would be for public comment, but the fact we don't have any public here joining us tonight, I guess that will move right on to our final action item tonight and invite Monty McCauley up and present a staff report regarding the 3rd Street Mooring Dock bid contract award.
Good evening, Commissioners. Before I get started, I do want to clarify one thing. Nick gave me a lot of credit for doing a lot of work on the grant for the fire removal, but I say we have to give credit where credit is due. The county has helped tremendously. They did the bulk of the work when it comes to the real application that went to the state. I just did the preliminary stuff, so I want to give credit to the county as well, Kootenai County. So tonight I'm here to talk to you about the 3rd Street Mooring Dock bid contract award. So the Parks Department is asking for a recommendation to council to accept the bid for the 3rd Street Mooring Dock replacement project from R&R Northwest. So in 1999-2000, Bill went and applied for and received a grant to build the mooring docks at McEwen Park, the 3rd Street Mooring Docks. And I think that was the first time we ever had docks there, mooring docks. And they did well for 20 years, but they're wooden docks, they don't last forever. So they were heavily used by the boating public, and they've seen a lot of use. They're also made of wood and only have a limited lifespan. And so last year, the Parks Department applied for a waterfront improvement grant through the Idaho Department of Parks and Rec, and it was approved this year. So the original estimate to rebuild the docks was $511,500, with the city committed to pay a 32% match. The project went out to bid, and R&R was the lowest bidder at $48,823.75. So since we committed to do a 32% match, we still have to do that even though the bid's less. So our adjusted match would then be $154,823.60. So the funds for the Third Street mooring dock replacement project will come from the following sources. The state waterfront improvement grant funds, which is $329,000, and then the Parks Department, our own personal internal waterfront improvement funds. And our match then, as I said before, is $154,823.60. Total being $483,823. So the accepting this bidder will allow the city to rebuild the Third Street mooring docks with better materials, because we are using polystyrene floats and composite decking instead of wood. So the last 50 years as opposed to 20. And that'll provide the boating public with a safer and longer lasting dock at Third Street. So again, we're asking that you recommend to council that they accept the bid for the Third Street mooring dock replacement project from R&R Northwest LLC.
So Monty, with the new kind of construction detail of the docks, then it'll probably be matching in appearance with our most recent dock replacements down there?
That's correct. It'll be the exact same setup as before.
Okay.
Dock prices have gotten so high to expand on that would have been outside any grant. This is the largest grant they've actually awarded, the monetary amount.
Mike?
Monty, you mentioned we've got a expected 50-year life
Yes.
for these docks. That's pretty darn good. What are we using for the flotation for them?
So they're steel frames with a polystyrene. I believe these floats that are inside.
They're basically a square box
Plastic, yeah.
that holds air. So they're not, when polystyrene, I think, is more like styrofoam.
Oh, right.
So they're exactly the same as the launch dock, but they're just a big box that holds air.
Okay.
So I believe made out of some kind of polymer, so they last forever. And steel bowl rails. It'll be composite decking, so if that does wear out, that's easy to replace and not as expensive. And so the big problem with docks is the floats wear out. You got cedar floats and they get waterlogged over time. And so these won't ever get waterlogged.
Go ahead, Mike.
One other question. Sometimes that type of material can get a little slippery when it's wet. Has there been any discussion about that? And are there certain types that have a certain texture that might make that a little less of a problem?
We have not seen that so much for ourselves at the launch dock. So these are the similar material, the Trex.
Okay.
The times I've been out there when it's wet, I haven't had that experience in being slippery. We do have tread material on the ramps that go down, and then also some that tape that's got like a grit to it as well.
Okay.
And so even those are a little different because they've got even a dimple on that gangway material that goes down to those mooring docks.
Okay, thank you.
So if you look at the launch docks now, we replaced the two launch docks 2 years ago, I believe.
Right.
So the one against the seawall we replaced just a couple years after the original mooring docks were built, and they still look identical. And they're made with this newer material. They still look identical to the brand new ones, and they're not slippery. So that the composite they're using works pretty good, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the new launch and the seawall. So it's great material.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Monty? If there's not any further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I would recommend council accept the bid for the Third Street mooring dock replacement project from R&R Northwest LLC.
Second. Okay. Motion's been made by Commissioner Tate, seconded by Commissioner Lean. Recommend council accept the bid for the Third Street mooring dock replacement project from R&R Northwest LLC. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passed unanimously, and does this go to,
General services has been canceled on Monday due to an impact fee workshop, so this will go directly to council on the 3rd.
on the 3rd? Okay. Very good. Okay, that kind of winds it up for tonight. Any last-minute comments or questions? I'll go ahead and make the last announcement then. Our next regular meeting will be Monday, October 16th, 2023, 5:30, right here in the meeting, excuse me, library community room. With that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Wood and seconded by Commissioner Tate to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Wow. That might be a new land speed.